It is September 1st, and that means it is time for a fall reading vlog. In this video, I am going to be reading 3 autumnal books. I'm going to be decorating my house for fall and hopefully doing some more cozy autumnal things. So stay tuned to hear about the books I'm going to be reading. Alright, first up, the only book from my physical TBR is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. So let's find out together what this is about, okay? So it's about Theo, who is a 13-year-old New Yorker who survives an accident that kills his mother. Sad. His father abandons him. Sad. It looks like he's taken in by the family of a wealthy friend. And it says he clings to the one thing that reminds him of his mother, a small, mysteriously captivating painting that ultimately draws Theo into the criminal underworld. That sounds really good. My husband and I are actually watching White Collar right now. It's basically a show about like white collar crime. There's a lot of like art theft and forgery and things like that, and it's really good. It's my second time watching it and my husband has never seen it before. So maybe that's why this book is calling to me so much. I'm not sure how autumnal this is actually going to be, so I felt like it was a good book to read like at the beginning of September before it's like actually cold outside. I'm also going to be reading The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the second book in the Raven cycle. This is an atmospheric YA fantasy story, and I think in this book we're going to be learning a lot more about the magic system that exists in this world because the first book is pretty mysterious. So I probably won't give any spoilers about this book. I'll just tell you about the vibes and how I'm feeling, but if I do give any spoilers, I'll make sure to like give you a warning and put the word spoilers on the screen. And the third and final book I'm going to be reading is This Ravenous Fate by Haley Dennings. This is described as a sapphic romance with vampires that takes place in 1920s Harlem, and I believe both of the love interests are black women, and I'm super excited about this one. I mean, vampires is perfect for the fall. I definitely want to read more sapphic books because I don't read enough of them. And I actually remember watching this YouTuber a few years ago. I think she's been obviously focused on writing, but I think it's so cool that she got published. And I love the idea of a 1920s setting. I don't really remember what romance tropes are in it, so I'll make sure to update you, but it might be enemies to lovers. So those are going to be the books I read during this vlog, and let's get started. So I am 25% into This Ravenous Fate, and I realized that it's YA, which is fine. I just went into it thinking it was an adult novel. I don't know why I didn't realize it sooner. Both of our main characters are 18, so it's not like a super young YA book, but that is something. And then I'm on page 86 or chapter 12 of The Dream Thieves, and I'm enjoying this so far. I think this is the book that I'm like mainly focusing on when I'm reading with my eyes, and then This Ravenous Fate is the only audiobook I'm listening to, but I have also started The Goldfinch. So I'm kind of reading all 3 of these at once and just choosing which one is calling to me or which one I'm in the mood for. So I am really enjoying this one, but I'm gonna need the plot to thicken. I'm gonna need something more to happen because I feel like a lot of it is relying on vibes, which I do really love the vibes, but I need more answers. I need more to happen. So if that happens, I think I'm going to be very, very happy and having a great time. If it keeps being slow, I don't know. So in terms of This Ravenous Fate, our main 2 perspectives are Layla and Elise. And Elise is the daughter of a man who has this like steel empire, and he manufactures these like steel bullets that kill vampires, so she's very wealthy. And then Layla is a vampire. In this book they call them Reapers. And Layla and Elise are actually childhood friends who had a very intense falling out, and at this point in the book they are like sworn enemies, like want each other to die kind of enemies. And it does kind of get into why, but at this point I feel like there are still some missing pieces to be filled in, and I'm kind of annoyed. I just want a flashback scene showing like exactly what happened between them. And so kind of the basic synopsis of this book is that they have to work together to solve a murder mystery. Basically, Layla was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the police think that she might have murdered this boy. And they don't have enough evidence to like convict her or anything, but they're insisting that she needs to help figure out what happened, or else she's gonna be like in big trouble. And Elise's father is like in with the police, like working closely with the police. One of the people who got murdered was a close friend of hers, and so she is really determined to find out who was murdered. So in this case, like they both have to work together. That's where I'm at. That's kind of like the basic synopsis. So we'll see how it goes. Right now it's feeling more like a 3 or a 3.5 star book. Like it's fine, it's good sometimes, it's just okay at other times. It's not feeling like a new favorite or anything. Good morning, friends. It is the next day from the last time I updated you, and I just wanted to come on here and say I am so excited to read The Dream Thieves today. Like, I'm just excited to read this, which is such a good feeling. Like, a lot of times I'm just like reading because I want to read, but it's not necessarily the book itself that's making me excited to read. So yeah, I really hope that this keeps going well, because it's just bringing me joy, and I love that for me. You know, when there's a character in a book who's like kind of an asshole, and they're like kind of cold or rude or standoffish, and then you get to know them more and they're actually like really traumatized and they have like a lot of emotions that they don't know how to deal with, or like they've been hurt so badly that like every emotion is just like bottled up or like repressed, and you like come to like actually love them. That's kind of happening in the Raven Boys right now. There's one character who in the first book, like I just didn't like him. Like he just seemed really mean and cold, and we didn't get too much of his perspective in the first one. And now we're getting more chapters where we're kind of like following his perspective and learning more like about his family and about like what he's going through. And not even like, I don't even know that much yet. I don't know, I just feel like we're gonna learn something big about him, and I'm just like really hoping that this keeps going the way that I think it's going, because I'm such a sucker for that trope where it's like a traumatized character who like is a secret softie inside, but they like can't be soft because of what they've gone through or how they don't know how to deal with their emotions or whatever. So we'll see. This is my favorite mug. It is just a bunch of cute dogs. My favorite one is this one. It says dog person, and we also have a mug that says cat person, because I am a dog person and a cat person, but my husband is definitely a cat person, so it's just kind of perfect. Oh, I'm so sorry. So it's later in the same day, and I listened to more of This Ravenous Fate while going on a walk and doing some chores. I am now 48% of the way through the audiobook, and I am bored. This happens to me a lot when I try to read a YA fantasy. It's really giving the same emotions that I felt when I tried to read a I mean, I did read A Tempest of Tea. And something I've noticed about like books coming out recently is that like the synopsis will sound so good. Like the synopsis will be incredible, and then the actual book, not so much. Does anyone else, like, is that crazy? Like, I feel like that happens to me so often, where it's like the synopsis seems to set it up to be like a new favorite, like how on earth could this not be amazing? And then it's just kind of meh. So that's where I'm at. I think if I wasn't vlogging, I would DNF it, but it is like an easy book to consume, so I think I'll finish it, just, you know, see how everything wraps up. I mean, I still have half of the book to read, but it's not it's not going great. I'm bored. It's giving 2.5 star vibes as of now. Well, that was a book that I read. I finished This Ravenous Fate. I've been listening to it like all morning, and it's like 1:30 p.m. and I finished, and my thoughts are okay. It's like I don't feel any strong negative emotions, but I also don't feel any strong positive emotions. If you're looking for an enemies to lovers book, where this is the first book in a series, so we didn't really get much of them actually being lovers in this book. I'm guessing that's gonna come more so in the second book, which I will not be reading. I think the best part about this book is the dynamic between the two girls and the fact that they have such strong reasons to hate each other, and yet they're so drawn to each other. I thought that that dynamic was like decently well done. I just really wish that their like conflict that happened in the past was explained in much clearer terms much earlier in the book. I would have liked a flashback scene. We didn't really get a flashback scene. I just don't think it was very well plotted. I think that the author definitely is talented, and you know, this is a debut, so you know, it's not going to be like a brilliant book most of the time. I just don't think that the plot was that good. But I would read something else from her in the future, especially if she writes an adult novel. I'm glad I read it. I definitely did like some of the vampire scenes. It was good to start out the fall with some vampiric tension. So that is This Ravenous Fate. If you are like a huge fan of vampires, maybe check this one out. I'm not like a huge fan of vampires. If you prefer young adult fantasy where there's not really that much world building, like this was a super easy read. Like there's not really any fantasy world building that you need to like wrap your head around. This will definitely be for some people. It just wasn't completely for me. So I think I'm gonna give it a 2.5. Not horrible, but not good. It's nighttime. I'm a little loopy. This is gonna be a spoiler section. Okay, this is gonna be a spoiler section for The Dream Thieves. I will have the word spoiler on the screen, and then I will take it off. When I'm done, you know the drill. Let's get started. So I said on page 70 that I was feeling like there was a queer vibe coming from someone, and I thought that it was either going to be that Gansey was in love with Adam, or that Ronan is in love with Gansey. And it hasn't been said like explicitly yet, but to me it's been pretty heavily hinted that Ronan is gay or queer. And if Ronan is going to be in love with anyone, I think it's going to be Gansey. So that's number one. So okay, if you've read this book, let me tell you where I am. Okay, I just finished chapter 31. First of all, the messiness of Blue, like being in like kind of a thing with Adam, but then realizing that she has a crush on Gansey, but then kissing Noah is so funny to me. And it's just like it's just reminding me of like being a teenager and like reading books with romance in them and just being like, it's very fun. So right now, Gansey and Adam have gone to like a different part of Virginia to go to his mom's something or other party. So the group is kind of split up, so that should be interesting because they haven't really been split up very often in this book. Okay, no, here's what I came here to say though. I have a prediction. So the gray man, obviously he's a hitman. Obviously we've seen him, or it's been like heavily alluded that he's killed 2 people and like has to bury them in the woods. So like he is a murderer. He is working for someone who is looking for, well, apparently looking for Ronan. He beat up a teenager. So he's obviously not a good person, right? But I feel like, and maybe this is just a plot hole, but in the first book with Welk, Blue's mother, Mara, was like, don't go near that man. He's a bad man, when he came to the house for a reading. And she hasn't said anything about the gray man. And I don't know if it's just because it's like super obvious that he's like a bad person and like there's no like nuance there. There's no like shock, you know, like it's just like, yeah, he's a hitman. But she did go out on a date with him, and like, yes, that was mostly because maybe she just wanted to steal his phone and go through his phone and find out what's up. But also they did seem to have like a real connection on the date. So what I'm wondering is he gonna be like, obviously he's like morally gray at best, but is he gonna kind of be on the like good side? Like, is he going to not be a villain character? Because I don't know, I just get the vibe that he and Blue's mom like really had like a vibe, and she said something about him like being like really hurt and like traumatized in life, and that she had like empathy for him, and I don't know. So that's my prediction. My prediction is that maybe he's gonna like double cross his employer and like actually help Gansey and the crew instead of helping his employer, and maybe he and Blue's mom are gonna have a thing. Or I'm just way overthinking this. It is the next morning. I'm wearing my new bear sweatshirt that I got at Sleeping Bear Dunes. I'm about to go run some errands, and then I'm going to take a walk and wash my hair because my hair is a mess, as you can probably see. But I'm here to announce a change in the TBR, okay? So, The Goldfinch. I do want to read this, but I don't want to read this for the vlog. This is a 770 page book, okay? This is literary fiction, and the writing is definitely literary, so it takes a bit more of the old brain energy to read this, and I am just finding it really stressful thinking about the fact that I would have to finish this book before this vlog goes up. I wanted all my fall vlogs to last about like a week and a half, just so that I, you know, get a lot of reads in, but I'm not one to read like 3 or 4 books in a week. That's just not me. And I was thinking about DNFing this book, but I was like, I don't want to DNF it. I just don't want to read it for this vlog. So we're switching it out for Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline Boulley. This is a book that I forgot to put on my like fall TBR video that I posted a few weeks ago, but I don't know if you can see, there's like literal like autumn leaves on the cover of this book. So this is a YA mystery written by an Indigenous author, and I believe the main character of this book is a young Indigenous teenager or a young woman. So it looks like there are going to be a striking number of missing Indigenous women, and the main character's family is going to become embroiled in a high-profile murder investigation. Also, there are going to be greedy grave robbers who are trying to profit off of what belongs to her Anishinaabe tribe. And so our main character, Perry, is taking matters into her own hands. I really enjoyed Firekeeper's Daughter by this author. So we're still reading a book from my physical TBR, but we're choosing one that is only 375 pages versus 770. So much more attainable. There's a high of 60 degrees today, which is so lovely. So I'm having a great morning so far. Since I started this yesterday, I've read the first 85 pages of Warrior Girl Unearthed. And our main character, Perry, has an internship at this museum. And the museum has a lot of like indigenous artifacts, and basically she's learning about this law called NAGPRA, which stands for the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. And her boss takes her to a different museum in the state, and there's the remains of who they call like the warrior girl, and they believe the remains are over 1,000 years old. And basically what she's learning is that there are lots of ways for museums to kind of like legally delay having to give back the remains or artifacts to indigenous communities. Like they can just claim that, you know, they need more time to identify which tribe something belongs to. I don't know, there's like lots of loopholes. And so she's growing very frustrated at how like this law is theoretically supposed to help Native people get their artifacts and their ancestors' remains back, but in reality that's not really happening very often. And then also within her community there is a young woman who went missing after going out to a bar and walking home, and so she and the other interns are sometimes like joining the search party to look for this woman. So far we've just been with Perry at her internship and with some of the other interns and with her family. We haven't really gotten into the like mystery setting yet, but I will say I'm really enjoying this. I like her writing style. I like everything that I'm learning and like how strongly she's able to write this like community, and the way that she weaves in explanations of everything that sound natural and don't take up too much time, but also she's not assuming that everyone who's reading this just understands everything. I'm listening to the audiobook while reading along with my eyes, and I will update you later, but I'm really liking it so far. I have finished all of the books that I said I was going to read for this vlog, so let me review those for you and wrap it up. First up, I finished The Dream Thieves, which I gave 3.5 stars. I felt like one of the new characters that we met in this book was quite out of place. I didn't really like his role in the story. I felt like even though things were happening in the book, I wanted it to be a more plot-driven book. And although I do appreciate Maggie Stiefvater's kind of flowery writing, there were times when I was like, really? Like, it just sounds like at moments she was just kind of saying things in a convoluted way just for the sake of saying things in a convoluted way, not because it actually added anything to the meaning of the sentence. And sometimes it just took so much brain power to read, and it's supposed to be like, you know, a fun YA fantasy, and there were definitely moments where I was bored. So 3.5 felt like a good rating. And then I actually read an extra book. I read Graveyard Shift by ML Rio. This comes out later in September, and I had an e-arc of it, and it was really cold the other day, so I decided to read it because the book itself takes place in October over the course of one night. And I didn't really update. I don't want to give too much away about it because it's not out yet, and it's only like 130 pages. The basic premise of Graveyard Shift is that it takes place in a graveyard right on the edge of this college campus, and it's kind of the only area where people can smoke. It's kind of like the closest point off campus where you can smoke. So there are these people who kind of meet there every night to smoke together, and they've kind of become friends even though they're all coming from very different walks of life. And something weird happens on this specific night, and they band together to kind of investigate what's going on. That's all you need to know. I didn't know the full synopsis going into it, really. I gave this 4 stars. I really liked the atmosphere. I liked the writing. I appreciated how quickly ML Rio was able to paint us a picture of these characters, even though we only had 130 pages with them, and we also had, you know, plot and side characters. I thought it was an interesting choice to have a book be set on a college campus but not really follow like students. There's only one character who is a student. The rest of the characters are like older adults who are working on campus or around campus somewhere. And yeah, it was just a perfect autumnal read, especially for a cold night. And I'm very glad that I read it, and I hope that everyone who reads it enjoys it like I did. And then just a few minutes ago, I finished Warrior Girl Unearthed. I'm giving this one 3.75 stars. I did really enjoy it, but I feel like the marketing team kind of screwed her over on this because the synopsis makes it sound like the main character is going to be, I don't know, I think the synopsis makes it sound like this is going to be more so about like a mystery, like a murder mystery, but it's really more about the repatriation of indigenous artifacts and ancestral remains. Maybe it's just my fault for thinking this was going to be a murder mystery. It's really not. So I was a little disappointed about that, but there definitely are some reveals and some surprising moments in this, and I think the conversations about some of the heavier topics were really well done and really important, and I felt myself tearing up at times. And I think this is just a really good YA contemporary. That's really how I would speak about this, more so as a YA contemporary rather than a mystery. It does take place in 2014, which is like such an odd choice, which I think is like fine, but like, is it a contemporary novel if it took place 10 years ago? Because it's not historical. I don't know. I enjoyed this, but I didn't like it as much as Firekeeper's Daughter, and it wasn't quite like the perfect book for me. So 3.75 stars sounds like a good rating. And it is not an autumnal book, even though there are autumn leaves on the cover, but that's okay. Thank you so much for watching this vlog. I appreciate it so much. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more bookish content from me, and I hope you have a lovely week.